there's no crazy, huge artistic secret behind it. It's just we really like the idea of giving a human name to the shows because it's really, you put so much effort in and you spend so much time. It's actually like having kind of a relationship with a person.
Welcome to Humans Behind Art. Today's guests are the circus artists Xenia and Dries, who recently founded their own company, Thinking Sideways.
Hi, my name is Dries. I'm from Belgium. I just graduated Codarts in June 2020, so last year. I specialize in acro dance, and together with Xenia and Raf, who actually is still in school now, we founded the company Thinking Sideways, and we are right now working on our first creation.
I'm Xenia. I am from Germany, and I also graduated from Codarts last summer, and I was in the same year as Dries. And before I did circus, I mainly did dance and gymnastics. So my way to circus was a bit over detours and unexpected. And yeah, as you said, now we are making our first show together.
I still know the two of them, as well as Raf, from when I was still a Codarts student myself. When I heard that they founded their own company and are working on a creation, I of course wanted to know more about this creation, their company, as well as their project.
We are a collective right now consisting of 3 people, as Dries already said. So it's Dries, Raf, and me. And we are doing all dance acrobatics. And right now our direction that we want to go artistically is focusing on monodisciplinary work from a more choreographic approach. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Dries, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and that also we are very interested in minimalism somehow. Like I don't know if minimalism is the good word. Xenia, maybe I have a better word to describe it, but that we like to find our own approach and don't think about the big spectacle. We like to think about the paths of movement and what we can say with that, and not think about tricks in general.
Yeah.
This research question is super interesting to me personally, as I am fascinated by this reinvention of contemporary circus and what circus can be. They are busy right now with their first creation under the title René, which is based on a single simple movement.
In the beginning of the creation, we didn't want to do this one movement. Actually, that's not true.
That's not true.
Actually, we wanted to do the full like a show with only this movement, only like the roll to the back and the candle position and the rolling back to the squat. But then we thought that's not enough. Like it might be too boring for an audience. So then we adapted it a bit because we also like to involve the audience somehow and find different ways of how to show circus. So we thought, okay, we put the audience on stage with us and we tried to replace the audience in space and move them around during this one movement, but also during acrobatics. But then, like I said, Corona changed quite a lot of our concept. So we had to change our concept because we couldn't have the audience on stage anymore. So we tried different things, and in one of our showings, people said that it was really working, actually, this repetitive movement. So then we decided, okay, we anyway go back to our first idea and we will just push physical exhaustion, because it is exhausting, like to roll the whole time like that, but also just the zoning away and getting your attention back and seeing that actually you missed something because it was moving so slow, but you didn't see it moving until you close your eyes for 5 seconds and then you see that it was like, wow, everything is different.
So as Dries said, it was really this detour of like, okay, this is our idea, and then we were like, oh no, we have to add, and then we got rid of the added stuff again, and we again with the basic concept. And for me, there's no storyline, I would say, where I'm like, okay, this is what I want to express, but it's really that for me, I want to, with the company, we want to challenge a bit how contemporary circus is seen. I mean, this is really a wide thing because how is contemporary circus seen?
Or shown.
But a lot of people, I think, have a very specific idea of it. And I don't like a lot of it also. Like I understand this fascination for the human excellence and finding really the crazy tricks. I understand that, but artistically I'm not interested in it. And that's also why I don't enjoy a lot of circus shows, because I feel there's always this struggle in the shows of, okay, we're doing this inhuman, crazy things, but we're also trying to match them with our artistic idea, and it never really works because there's no link in between. So for me, I was, and also I think for Dries, we were thinking, okay, what else can we do? How else can we push, for example, this, what can humans do? And also how far can we push the audience? So it's a bit about both. Like we're pushing ourselves physically, because in the beginning you're like, yeah, you're rolling, it's super funny, but after, and easy, but after 30 minutes, it's not so easy anymore. But we're also pushing the audience in the sense that how long are they following us actually? And I think there's really this moment for them of like, they're going to do this for the whole time, and like a bit of like boring. But then so far our feedback was always that then everyone gets sucked in and it really is with us, and this is what we kind of want to reach.
Yeah, and also the rediscovering of the movement somehow, that the audience always like sees new stuff, although we do actually the same thing. We do a lot of variations, but still that the main move, they start to see more and more little details, and that's also very interesting for us to see that they can really see if our hand is closed or open, for example, so that they really are so into it that we can go for these small details.
We think it's really super important to find a concept or find something that is really accessible and super easy to understand for the audience. And for example, this movement that we have, it is super easy. They're like, okay, you're rolling, and it's a thing they maybe can do as well, and it's really something they can understand. So yeah, I think this is one of our approaches, to find something like that and then stick with it and go deep into it.
And also that they relate, and then they discover like, oh wow, this is also possible like that. I didn't think about that. It's also really interesting.
I really feel also a bit like it's a like counter reaction to being in school and always forced to do like this 8-minute act and then show enough technique, because otherwise you fail. And now I'm really like, okay, we're gonna do 40 minutes and there's almost no technique at all, and I'll give you that. It's a bit like, I feel a bit maybe like that as well.
I understand.
I mean, then it's technique, it's the school technique is not there probably, but there's still technique. It is like,
Yes.
But what is
still a different thing. Yeah, I know. But that's why I classify it as the school acrobatic technique.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're not going for, or we don't like anyway.
To me, what the two are describing here is really a transition from circus as a craft to circus as an art form. My own path as an artist was actually quite similar to what Xenia described as this counter movement towards the kind of technique and work I had to produce at school. I do sometimes wonder though if this rebellion is really necessary, or if schools and institutions, namely art schools, should be more allowing for that in their curriculum. If you have an opinion about that and maybe your own experiences, feel free to leave us a comment below or send us an email. Now, creating a show is obviously a lot of work, so I asked them a little bit about their creation and work process for this show.
There's the less fun part is when we're working on the computer in the mornings and in the evenings, and then we normally like do 1 till 7 or 8 or something, I think, Xenia, right?
Studio, yeah.
When we're in the studio, and before and after we do computer work. Mm-hmm. And in the studio, it's hard to explain actually how we work. Because this movement is very repetitive, somehow it is even possible to write down the show without doing anything, and then you do it, and then you discover so many things that are not working, that you have to adapt, but somehow you can write the whole sequence down in just numbers, and then later try it, so you can think about it for a long time actually, if an order of numbers or lengths, because it's repetitive. When it gets boring, we can think about it, and then we do it, and then we always like go in between that. But a big part is also just the research of the movement, because we want to find different ways of doing it. The first week is more than now. Now it's more trying to connect. But in the beginning was a lot of doing that one movement and trying 1,000 different ways of how to do it. Yeah.
But so yeah, our day structure is really like in the mornings we do all the computer work, and then we go into the studio, and there usually, well, we're trying to always start with a run. Sometimes we are failing, but it's important because everything is counted. So the whole show is choreographed, and well, it's counted, but not in a dance way. It's not on eights. It's like we do 5 of this, then we do 10 of this, then we do 3, then we do 7, then we do 50. So we have to remember that. And for this, it's really important that we actually do it so we don't get lost in the numbers. And our process, I think, it feels slow compared to the experiences we have in school with group shows. Also because there you always have really a limited time and you have to do a lot in a short time. But I think it's also partially because of our concept, which is about this slow evolving of the movement and how we take the audience along. I feel this is also kind of how the process is going a bit for us, that also we are having, like, it's also a bit slow because we're also discovering, or like we find this one thing and then we're really into it and we research it and we put it in, and then it feels a bit like stagnation, and then we find the next thing. So it's a bit like this. And we work also very visually, like apart from the choreography, which is very visual, we have really big papers that we put on the walls in every place that we go. And we have different lists of, like, one is with all the research of the movement we have, and one is about the computer work we have to do, and one is about the music, one is about the costumes. And whenever, just in the day, whenever we have a thought of one of these things, we can just put it down on the paper. And it's really nice because this makes the space our own, kind of, no matter where we go. And I find this very important. And also it gives us the possibility to not get distracted, because it's so repetitive. It's easy that you're like, and you have another thought and you want to go for that, but you can just write it down, it's out of your head, and we can continue.
As already mentioned, the show is called René. And while the show didn't even have its premiere yet, there are already plans for their next show under the title Cécile, in which we will then also be able to see Raf after he finished graduating. René, Cécile.
There's no crazy, huge artistic secret behind it. It's just we really like the idea of giving a human name to the shows, because it's really, you put so much effort in and you spend so much time. It's actually like having kind of a relationship with a person, because sometimes you really love it, sometimes you hate it, there's some troubles. And we came up, like, it was kind of a joke in the beginning. We said, like, okay, this is the working title, René. And then we really started to like it and we refer to it as René, and it stuck. And now, right now, I'm defending the idea that we will from now on call all of our shows a human name.
Yeah, but then it started like, okay, our second show would be Cécile for no reason, and then it was suddenly like, all our shows have a human name. That's it. That's a thing now. And now I think it became a thing by accident. That is really like, yeah, that's it. We do it.
Nice. I think it's a cool idea, and what you just said about, okay, to personify this project, this show, I think gives a different light as well on the relation that you as a creator have with the piece, instead of just giving it a descriptive normal show name, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. And also because, like, right now, as we're in the beginning and we're a collective, we're really doing everything ourselves, like all of it. We're not only creating, we're also doing all the production work and the diffusion, like everything. So it's really, we have all the different aspects of the piece, and it really feels like it's such a big part of our lives. So it's somehow, yeah,
it takes so much work.
Thinking sideways, even though they are just at the beginning of a hopefully long journey and career, already have a very clearly defined style in my eyes. So I wanted to know a little bit more about these stylistic choices they made, as well as their artistic vision. Also in context to the developments inside of the contemporary circus and art scene in general.
Well, for me, it is that something that I find really characteristic for circus and for the traditional circus, like what I think of, is that it is really accessible for a lot of people because there's often no language barrier, and it's in contrast, for example, to opera. It's really not this thing of like only the educated people go there, or the people that are educated enough to understand what is going on. And this is really an aspect that I love about circus. And I feel that in now the contemporary circus scene, it's kind of getting lost because there's this urge to make a step in the development of the art form to be more recognized. And I mean, this is also now, I don't want to generalize because this is not true for all the contemporary circus because there's so many different ways it's going. But for me, I kind of want to make something that is abstract without putting it in this category of it's now high art and it's not accessible for everyone, which I feel is often happening. So yeah, by having something that is so simple, I personally think that this is really something everybody can get into and get taken along with. And I find this very beautiful, and I hope that we're managing to do that.
One thing that I see from the outside is that this starts to be, maybe it's just because I'm inside of exactly this bubble as well, but that this kind of work starts to happen a bit more and more, not only in contemporary circus, but as well in other art forms. We see it as well a lot in the mixing from art forms, and somehow I personally see at least that there is a common direction somewhat in it at the moment, at least. And personally, I see it very connected as well to our society in general. Like there is so much, everything is going so fast, everything has to be more. And then there is a lot of artists now taking the opposite route and going to, okay, minimalism, really change up this ever faster going track that humanity is taking. And I find it really interesting to see this reflection somewhat on this track, be it a conscious choice by the artist or be it something that just happens and feels natural and like the right thing to do for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. That is very interesting in the context of the world. And hard to say. And also, as you say, it's maybe just a fraction of the field of artists or the art that is taking this route. But I think artists in general throughout history have often been people to kind of start figuring out new ways, because we're also often the group that is kind of affected by crisis, for example, very directly, like now during Corona. The support for the cultural scene, it depends on the country, but overall it's pretty shitty, and a lot of people are really in bad situations. So there's also the need of creating now new structures and not relying on the big institutions and so on. So I think it's maybe part of that as well, that artists are just always a bit like, okay, maybe I don't like this, how it's going, what can I do and how can I express myself and show this to the rest of the world? And then maybe they are proven wrong, or maybe the rest of the world is like, yeah, maybe.
This need for new structures Xenia mentions is something that I can very much identify with. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. In context to this topic, as well as to arts history, Xenia mentioned a beautiful quote that I definitely wanted to share with you.
Yes, history repeats itself. It's actually not true. I found this really nice quote, I think from Margaret Atwood, where she's saying, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. I think that's very beautiful.
Oh, I heard that before.
And I find it very nice. Anyway.
Well, it goes along the lines of you cannot step in the same river twice.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of young artists in my own environment currently starting up their own companies. And I guess myself, with my own artistic work, as well as we hear from Capta laVie, fall into that very same box. As Dries and Xenia made the same choice, I asked them if they see it as a trend and why they chose this path over being an interpret in someone else's company.
I don't know if it is a trend, but somehow when I came into Codarts, I wanted to have my own company when I graduated, but I also had a lot of companies in my mind that I would want to work with. But now I am like, I don't know, maybe it's also because I'm so full now at Thinking Sides that I'm like, I want to do other projects, but small ones and little things on the side. I want to have one thing that is really, that I can do anything that I want with, and I can really say, this is my artistic vision, this is what I think circus is, and that I don't know, and that I have little things on the side to get my brain and the headspace down. But that's only for me the case. I don't know if it's for everyone like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I also don't know. I think, I mean, within Codarts, it's also hard to tell because I think it's rather free which way you want to develop, and there's people that go really in the direction of more cabaret or variety, and then there's people that go more into, that come into the school and they know they want to be interprets in interpret. No, I don't know how to pronounce this word right now. Sorry. They want to work for other companies, and so I think it's hard to say if there's a trend, but for sure, for me, it was a bit like what Dries said, that I didn't really have this idea of like, this is a company I want to work with, because there's rarely companies whose artistic vision I enjoy so much that I would say, hey, I want to do this and I will do anything you tell me, because I love it. For me, being a circus artist.
Or yes, like I have some companies in my head, but they don't do acro dance at all.
Yeah, exactly.
They're jugglers or something, and then like they will not accept me as an acrobat as like in a juggling company.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think it's a bit about your how is this called in English? Selbstverständnis, like how you see yourself as a, what is your vision of yourself in this field of art, because it is so open and there's different ways you can go. It's super different if you want to perform in varieties or if you want to do your own stuff. And I think this is something that develops throughout school, but I can imagine that there's more and more people that have like their own vision that they want to realize.
Mentioning this vision of yourself, we stumbled across another really interesting topic during our conversation, with which we are slowly coming towards an end here as well. This topic is identity as an artist in relation to your discipline. How does your art medium and your specialty inside of the arts define your character and your identity, as well as your artistic self? We are talking about circus here, but I think that this question can also be easily transferred onto other art forms.
Speaking to a lot of people that do stuff that I also enjoy watching, so that are kind of going the way I'm going, I would say. There's kind of a broadening in the understanding of circus, which is definitely related to the fact that there's all the connection with other art forms, but also it's way less about having a specialization or a discipline. I mean, again, this is really for one specific part of the scene, but I think this is a really interesting development, because we actually had the experience once when we were still in school. We organized a tour for our whole class with a group show, and one of the performance spaces didn't have rigging, so we had to adapt a lot of the show because we had 6 or 7 aerialists in class and there was no rigging, so they had to do something else. And there was really a discussion within the class about whether we should accept this performance space or if we should cancel the show there, because some of the people felt that they didn't have a reason, or that they were not valid enough on stage if they didn't do their discipline. And some people don't have this at all. And I see this also now by getting to know other people from other schools in other countries, that this is really something that's happening, that there's a few people, or not a few, that there's people that have this urge of like, hey, I don't need to define myself over my discipline. This is not what I am. I can do a lot of things. I'm educated to be an artist on stage. And there's people that really stick to what they learn. And I think both is really valid. But this whole thing of maybe finding your own company is maybe also related to this freedom or the urge to have more freedom.
I think it also falls into what Dries started to go into. Like you said that, okay, there is companies that you really like what they do artistically, but they do a different discipline that you.
Yeah.
So that there is a shift between what somebody says artistically might be interesting, and that it becomes independent from the physical language that they use. That there is a shift towards message and communication instead of just entertainment and making them go, wow, crazy cool thing.
Definitely.
But on an extra level that is connecting much more with the audience and communicating with them much more. I think that's very, very interesting, and I think as well very important for contemporary circus to discover this area a lot more and dive into. So I think it's really great that you guys are really going in that direction and keeping it as well under the label, let's say, of circus. I think it's great.
Yeah, whereas this is also a big discussion actually. Like, I mean, I don't want to well, what is circus, but also about the labels. What you said, like we could label our thing as dance as well, or as performance art. It's.
I didn't want to say it.
No, I think, and I think we will not do it because for me, as I explained, like there's something about circus that I really love, but at the same time, I also am kind of asking, is it necessary to have this clear distinction between the different art forms? But I think this is really a long development and looking far into the future.
Of course. What I do think though is important, like you guys were talking about changing the image of circus. So if you want to do that, I do think that you really have to label it circus.
Yes.
Because if you label it something else, well, then everything the thing that you do has nothing to do with circus anymore, because the label changed and people won't connect it to, and the image of circus is not going to change.
Definitely.
So I think today in all this interdisciplinary art and also in what I do myself, it is really getting important to define your label together with the vision and mission that you have. And it's not so much about trying to describe what you do by putting it under a label. To open doors for other circus artists as well, to widen the field of experimentation.
Yeah, exactly. And also to contribute to the development of the field, because this is also something I really enjoy, to be in a field that is currently in a really big development and is opening so many doors. Because if we just label our thing as dance is already an established art form, and there's really clear structures and organizations, and it's super institutionalized. So to label our thing as circus is, for one, I think it's not easy to just get in there, and for two, like it's not what I want. I love to open this whole thing and then speak with people and go also into the more academic research and see how they see what is happening within the scene. And the whole circus scene is also amazing. Like there's so many great people and so many cool stuff going on. It would be really like a pity to just be like, yeah, what we do is dance, and then leave that behind. I would never want to do that.
Yeah.
This was it for today's episode of Humans Behind Art. But there is more, namely on our Patreon page. Thanks to our patrons, we are able to keep growing this channel, bringing arts to the people, and continue to make better content for you guys out there. As a small thank you to our patrons, they get access to all of our full interviews and are even able to watch our recordings live and ask their own questions. So if you like what we do and want to support us, then I would love to see you over on our Patreon page. Also, our Patreon supporters get exclusive access to our Discord server, where we are slowly growing a community of artists with a mission to help and support each other, to enable everyone to grow to their full potential. This was Humans Behind Art, and my name is Jacob. See you soon! We come back with new featured artists every Friday and with new episodes of Humans Behind Art every Sunday.
Ba-da-da-dum.